Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to this webinar on PayCargo integration with CargoSpot. We are starting this webinar, and my name is Bart Haasbeek. I'm based in Amsterdam, and I am Cham's Events and Engagement Manager. We have a very exciting topic for you lined up, and the audience and airlines ground handlers are from all over the world, as well as our presenters. Before we move on, please let me address a few housekeeping items. The duration of the webinar is 45 minutes. We will be recording the webinar, and you will automatically receive it tomorrow via email. If you have any questions, please raise them using the tool. We will address them during the webinar, and if we're out of time, we will get back to you via email. So your answers will be answered. And if you have additional questions later on, please do not hesitate to contact us, and we will be happy to organize a meeting with you. The webinar is exclusively organized for airlines and forwarders, but everybody can attend and join. But it's a specialistic topic on the interface with PayCargo and CargoSpot. So our agenda for today, we start with the introduction of the panelists, then the CargoSpot and PayCargo API and how it works and how it integrates. Then we'll explain how it works and PayCargo at work within CargoSpot. And then we hear from the airline's perspective, and also, of course, from PayCargo, how this specifically works and what the benefits are. Then the key takeaways, and then we will get back to you if you have any questions. So please let me introduce our panelists for today. From Champ, we kick off with Christopher Shawdon, Head of Business Development, followed by Dan Parks, Business Analyst, PayCargo's Timothy Walton, Senior Vice President, and Marklan Moseley, General Manager, Cargo and New Business with Caribbean Airlines. They will learn us more about PayCargo integration in CargoSpot, the proven payment solution to reach new clients. So let's kick off with Christopher. Christopher, could you highlight the CargoSpot and PayCargo integration, please?
Thank you, Bart-Jan. Yes, I'd like to. Can I move to the next slide, please? One of the things that I like to start with is the idea that consumers, we as consumers, have increasing expectations, and they don't always follow in terms of business. But one of the expectations we see in our daily lives is the dramatic reduction in the use of payments that are not online. In other words, we used to see the majority of payments were not cashless 10 years ago. Today in UK retail, it's only about 15% of payments are made with anything that involves cash. So we've seen a dramatic change to cashless payments. And of course, for many reasons, that's a good thing. It provides security, it provides speed, it's auditable, and the same apply to business. Historically, we've seen people queuing up to pay checks when they collect goods from ground handlers for excess charges, or to pay for flights if that was available. And you had to go to a special counter and there were auditing problems, etc., etc. What PayCargo offers is an answer to all of that. It's a modern, fast, and friction-free solution. We've been working with PayCargo for about 3 years, and we built up the business together, and we see about 3,000 payment transactions settled each week. That's done because we built a deep integration to CargoSpot. And as Bart-Jan said, the focus of this is airlines and forwarders. It's also really handlers as well. Forwarders are the users. The merchants are the handlers, the airlines and the ground handlers. And we built detailed integration with PayCargo for those organizations. Of course, the payers are forwarders, and as Tim will tell you, there is a huge reach of payers that PayCargo supports. It's very easy for them to get online, and they get a lot of value out of the service. We're all about speed as an industry, and I think PayCargo is a great way to speed shipments and their movement. So I think I should probably say no more, but leave to my colleagues to talk about the integration, the value that PayCargo provides, and from an airline perspective, Marklan's going to talk about the value in terms of a merchant. Thank you very much, Bart-Jan.
Thank you, Christopher. Let's move on to our next speaker, Dan Parks. Dan, you are on the west coast of the United States. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Bart-Jan, and good day, everybody from Los Angeles. We have several interfaces today that connect PayCargo and CargoSpot. These work through various APIs through Champ's API gateway to provide the ability for CargoSpot to send invoice detail to PayCargo, to the payer's dashboard. Also for the PayCargo user to request invoice detail from CargoSpot, and for PayCargo to populate CargoSpot with the payment notifications. For handling invoices, this is our general invoice module. What would happen is every time that you add a new general invoice or update an invoice with a new amount, and that invoice is to a PayCargo payer, the CargoSpot user will see a pop-up on the screen. Do you want to send this invoice detail, yes or no, to PayCargo? We do give you the option here to choose no, in case you have a customer standing right in front of you with an obvious different form of payment. If they have some archaic check or a bag of coins to give you, you can choose no and not send it to PayCargo. But normally, if they're a PayCargo user, you would say yes. This will send the invoice detail to PayCargo, and in the PayCargo screen, they would see it on their dashboard. In the next screen, we'll see the PayCargo screen, the payer's dashboard. Over there on the right, you see pending transactions. So this would be a record generated from CargoSpot directly in that user's PayCargo dashboard. All they have to do is click on the item, and then on the next screen, we'll see that they can see all the detail of that invoice. There on the right, you can see all the different line items from the invoice. These are your product codes for handling charges. This might be your storage or terminal services fee, maybe a DG fee, something like that. All those items in CargoSpot, they can see the line items right there in PayCargo, and the amount, of course. They do not have the option to edit anything here. This is all read-only for them, including the amount. So their only choice is to pay. And actually, there is a dispute button down there at the bottom. If they have some dispute with the amount, they would have to talk to you about that and get you to change it. They don't have that ability to change. All they do is click to pay, and then PayCargo will execute the payment and then send a payment notification to CargoSpot, which in turn then creates the payment record. So your CargoSpot users do not need to perform the manual task of data entering the payment records. There's also an option to, if you're using the estimated invoice functionality in CargoSpot, that is where if you have a delivery that is planned for the next day or a couple days later, that the driver can enter into PayCargo, they would simply click on a new transaction, enter the vendor, that's you, the airway bill, and the expected pickup time. And that replicates the CargoSpot action of clicking estimated invoice and entering a future pickup time for CargoSpot to create an estimated invoice. Once they do that, the CargoSpot would create the estimated invoice, send the detail back to PayCargo. You see it on the screen here, and they again have the opportunity to click to pay. In this case, you could get your money a little bit early. You might get your money a day or 2 or 5 days even before delivery. For this, that's how the handling invoices work. For airway bill invoices, if you want to collect the freight charges, if you're an airline, you want to collect the freight charges through PayCargo. Once in CargoSpot, you have rated the airway bill, so you have some value in the net field down there at the bottom right. And if you're using the verification functionality, once it's verified, then the PayCargo user can perform the same task as requesting an estimated invoice. The PayCargo user on their screen can select new transaction, and all they do again is simply enter the vendor, that's you, the airline, enter the airway bill. If we can go to the next slide, please, Bart-Jan, and enter in the amount. You'll see they have a new transaction here. All they have to do is enter those 3 fields and click to pay. While we do not send the airway bill detail to PayCargo the way we do for handling invoices, we do have some options that will ensure that you only get the correct amounts. There are 2 program INIs added to CargoSpot that work independently. They can each be turned on and off to restrict it such that you can only accept payments from PayCargo for airway bills which have been verified if you use that functionality, and that you can only accept payments for the correct amount. So if a user enters an airway bill and they enter an incorrect amount, they either overpay or underpay, CargoSpot will return an error message back to the PayCargo payer. The PayCargo user will see that in their screen. This is not the correct amount. The expected amount is such and such. And then they know the amount that's expected. They can correct their entry and resubmit, click to pay again. And incidentally, in PayCargo, if an error message is returned from CargoSpot, if CargoSpot doesn't find the record, if the amount is incorrect, that will abort the execution of the payment on the PayCargo side. So it won't be as if you're receiving incorrect amounts and then you have to reconcile the difference and collect the difference, things like that. If they send the wrong amount, there will be an error. That payment will not be executed. They see what the correct amount is, they enter the correct amount, and then once CargoSpot returns a success message, then the payment process is completed. And here in CargoSpot, we will see that the payment record is created automatically. Again, your users do not have to enter anything. And incidentally, if they are paying through credit card or other card forms of payment in PayCargo, you should know that none of the cardholder data is being transferred to CargoSpot. It is not included in the APIs. It's not included in this interface in any way. So you do not have to worry about PCI compliance or housing any cardholder data and all the security regulations that are involved there. Simply, you just get the amount and who paid it. That information goes into CargoSpot and the money is in your bank that day. So we hope you'll find these interfaces helpful in transitioning to online payments and avoiding having your warehouse staff handle any cash or checks, anything like that. And I'll be happy to hear any questions later in the Q&A session. Go back to you, Bart-Jan.
Thank you, Dan. That was a very clear presentation, very understandable, very easy to implement as well, by the sound of it. Yep. With obvious advantages. So let's now listen also to the audience. So we have a few questions, and audience, please feel free to raise the questions in the tool, and we will get back to you later on during the presentation. But in the meantime, let us raise some questions to you. So the poll questions, and we'll launch the first one. The first poll question is non-IATA invoicing enabled within your cargo system? It's a yes or no question. Is non-IATA invoicing enabled within your cargo system? Let's wait a minute. So the votes are getting in. Please do not hesitate to answer this question. The first votes are now getting in. I see the percentage rising, so that's good. Just 10 more seconds, and then I'll share the answer. Okay, there we go. Let's share. So 83 say yes, 17 no, percentage. Christopher, do you have a view on these results?
Sorry, Bart-Jan. Yes, 83 is terrific. Of course, it is enabled in every cargo spot system, so it's certainly enabled. Whether it's used or not, that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
But yes, for those who said no, it's not enabled. If you're running a cargo spot system, it is available to you to enable.
Okay, let's go to the next question. And this is for airlines. What proportion of your business is with non-IATA agents? For an airline, what proportion of your business is with non-IATA agents? Option A is we do not accept non-IATA customers. Between 0 and 5%, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, or more than 20. So no votes yet. So let's wait a little longer. Yeah, now they're coming in. Thank you for that. Yeah, just 5 more seconds. Yeah, we're well over the 50% that have answered, so that is quite nice. And let's share also the results here. I would almost want to say the winner is, but there is not really a winner, and it's also not a contest. So Christopher, what is your take on these results?
Well, of course, it depends on the nature of a business. Somebody like Marklan is going to say it's going to get one extreme. There are other large carriers who mainly do business with large forwarders. So it varies on the nature of business. What's interesting is that there is always some degree of organizations that are non-IATA CAS agents, and therefore there is always an opportunity for PayCargo. The size of it, of course, depends on the nature of the carrier, but there is always some. And it's also an area of increasing focus for airlines to grow their business to shippers. And of course, they need a payment solution like PayCargo.
Yeah, indeed. So the opportunity for PayCargo, let's go to PayCargo and listen to what the offer is. So I would like to introduce Timothy. Welcome, Timothy Walton. If you could please explain us more about the benefits of PayCargo.
Sure. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Bart-Jan, for organizing this. Christopher and Dan, thank you both. Just as a general comment, we've been working with Champ for a number of years. As Christopher mentioned, it's a great partnership. They're very professional. They're very easy to work with, as evidenced by Dan Parks' very simple and concise demo that he just showed us. It's a very simple system. It's very easy to work with. Christopher mentioned friction. So one of the things that PayCargo does do is try to provide the ability to remove friction for both parties, whether it's the payer, the customer paying the airline, the ground handler, the GSA, but also to make the ground handler, the GSA, the receiver more efficient. So remove friction from the process, reduce manual processes, increase efficiencies for all parties, and reduce your costs. PayCargo is a patented solution. We've been doing this for over 10 years in North America. We work with over 50,000 customers. These are beneficial cargo owners, freight forwarders, logistics companies, importers, exporters, who pay over 5,000 companies every day on our platform. We processed over US dollars $20 billion in 2022, and we're expanding globally. And again, we're pleased to be able to work with Champ in a number of regions and with some of you, including Marklan at Caribbean Airlines, who's a customer of PayCargo. So we're blessed to be able to work with him also. It's a very simple application to get set up. Those of you who are already using Cargo Spot, it's simply turning it on, as Dan mentioned, or making your staff, whether it's your own staff or the GSA or ground handling agent, aware of this capability. And you can start collecting either, and really any type of charges that are due the airline or the GSA or the ground handler through our platform. Again, it is a simple tool to set up. There are very good data is remitted to your accounting people, so they'll be happy to work with PayCargo and Champ on this. And your customer gets a very good user experience. Christopher again alluded to cash, paperless transactions at the cash window. That's the goal, is how they can pay through either the credit card or a EFT account through PayCargo and simply provide valuable data to you as the airline, or you the ground handler, or you as a GSA for, again, any type of charges, import charges, export charges. Our customers in North America and Europe pay both airlines, ground handling agents, ocean carriers, trucking companies, container freight stations, a multitude of vendors. So it's a very simple application. So. Again, just looking at what this slide is talking about, some of the efficiencies on the payer side. So again, for us, the payer in PayCargo is the company that's using our platform to make a payment to the receiver, to the ground handler, the airline, or the GSA. Is a faster recognition of the payment by the vendor, by the provider, normally means a faster release of the cargo, which is the game, which is most people are looking for that, a quick release operationally. And also the need to stop writing, if they're still doing this, paper checks or remitting cash. We're starting out with a new process in Asia with an airline that's removing cash on remittances being done at night to a ground handler in Asia. And we can share with that later on. Less phone calls. Did you get the payment? Have you loaded the freight if it's for an export shipment? Less emails. I paid you via an EFT. Did you apply the cash correctly? Are you sending me a separate invoice for the same product? And it's the step again is simple. Whether I'm a customer, we have an option called Ship and Pay, which is simply you have a valid credit card, you could register and PayCargo in about 10 minutes. So you have the one-offs, the walk-ins, live animals, human remains, those kind of customers that you want to be able to tender cargo shipments to them, then you're currently not able to do that either because of the platform you're using or simply you're not aware of that. And as Christopher mentioned, it is available currently in Cargo Spot. It's simply how do we educate perhaps some of your staff at the terminals. This is a simple graphic of the person on the left with the blue shirt is the user, the PayCargo, the person going into PayCargo, the payer, creating the payable to the airline or the GSA or the ground handler, and the money flow. So as Dan Parks mentioned in his very good demo this morning, we do not retain the credit card information, nor do you have to worry about that. But the customer, if they like, can use a credit card to create a payable in PayCargo. We guarantee the remittance every night immediately to the receiver, to the airline, to the ground handler, to the GSA. So from a cash flow perspective or a working capital management, you do get paid, we think, fairly quickly through PayCargo, along with very good data. And we've working with Cargo Spot, we found we were able to provide some customizations for both parties, whether it's the importer, the exporter, or also the airline, to make it more easier to use for their team, whether it's their operational team or their accounting team. But again, as Dan mentioned, one of the nice things about the integration is the data is going into your system, so it's not a manual release if you're using Cargo Spot, but also your accounting staff is getting the detailed information uploaded every night through the PayCargo Cargo Spot integration. And even if you have an ERP such as SAP or others, we are able to provide you that data in an uploadable format that you can upload it directly into your ERP, which again should make your treasury, your accounting team very happy.
Thank you, Timothy. Yeah, those were the benefits. There are a few questions that are coming in, but audience, don't hesitate to ask more questions. We will get back to you in a minute, Timothy, with the questions from the audience. Let's move on to our next speaker, Mr. Marklan Moseley, based in Trinidad and Tobago for Caribbean Airlines Cargo. Marklan.
Thank you, Bart, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So just to give a bit of background in terms of our arrangement with Champs, we have been using Champs Cargo Spot for many years. We view Champs as a very key partner in our ability to succeed as a business. And we have really been trying to progress on the digital journey, the digital part for the cargo business at CAR. So when we were engaged by Champs back in 2021, I believe, to discuss the possibility of having an integrated online payment system, we were quite happy to find out that there was a relationship with a partner, PayCargo, and they made it clear that it is actually possible. We saw the demos, we were quite excited at that time. That was in the height of the pandemic, so we were a bit slower in terms of executing some of these things, and we're here today. In the beginning of this year, we actually started the offline mode of PayCargo, using PayCargo. So in our test environment of Cargo Spot, we have it fully integrated, but in the live environment, it's not yet integrated. So currently, customers utilize the service through the offline mode, where they go and they put in their airwaybill number, so on, and they actually make the payments there. And we are already seeing the benefits based on even utilizing a system like this in offline mode. As some of the speakers earlier would have mentioned as well, there's a drive to reduce the amount of transactions that you have to do at the counter, and of course, reducing the amount of cash that has to be collected by the GHAs. So we are actually happy to see initiatives like this, and we see one of the key benefits immediately would be the ability to secure our payments without just collecting cash. So it's a matter of collecting payments ahead of someone even tendering cargo, or as soon as they tender it and before wheels up, we should be in a situation where we could prompt for payment, or if it's actually going to be paid by the consignee before they come to collect the payment, they would be able come to collect the cargo, sorry, they would be able to make the payment online, which means that it's more convenient and less time being spent at the counter. Currently, we have another offline mode payment system, which was developed by our internal passenger side of the business, but it's not linked at all with Cargo Spot. So that's another offline payment method. And what we want to do is have that integrated with Cargo Spot. All right, so once we have, there's an opportunity here for us to consolidate having all online payments channeled through a payment gateway like PayCargo, which is actually linked to Cargo Spot. So it reduces, as seen in the other slide, it even reduces the time it takes for us to reconcile our accounting, right, and be able to verify payments against a specific airway bill in almost real time. Next slide, please. So on the point on saving time, of course, for a carrier, we have three different persons that we could be interacting with, or three different, I would say, customers that we're interacting with at any given time. We have the agent, which could be a freight forwarder as well. But we could have a GSSA, for instance, that's selling our air bills, and we have to collect payments from them as well. We also have the shipper, who is actually going to be delivering the item to us and doing all the declarations and so on. And we have the consignee. In the Caribbean, our market is specifically consignee driven. And in most instances, the payments are actually made by the consignee and not the shipper. So for instance, our cargo coming from the US on our freighter into Trinidad or Jamaica, the person actually paying for this is the consignee, and they would usually come and have to pay cash at the counter, find out what's the cost, because in some instances, they don't even have visibility of what the total weight of the shipment is, because they did not tender the air bill. So it's a scenario where we could save time by triggering a message to whoever is responsible for making this payment. Whenever we identify that the right time to do that is, and after tendering also, and they could actually make this payment and save a lot of time before they even arrive at the airport. So when they arrive at the airport, it's simply to collect documents, to go to customs, to process the shipment. And where we want to see things as well is not even collecting documents. We should be able to link to customs directly as well, saying that this piece of cargo is okay to deliver. And customs should be integrated with us as well in such a way that the customer could just go straight to customs and have the shipment cleared. That's where we would like to see things on a long-term perspective. Hopefully it's not too long, but there are some integrations that we hope that will become available as well with customs to make that process easier and make the process of doing business a lot easier. As I mentioned before, a key element here for us as well is being able to reconcile the accounts a lot faster. And we see this as something that's going to be able to help us achieve those goals. So in summary, we are pretty much excited to have this integration completed. The integration is expected to happen in the coming weeks. And when that integration takes place, just as Timothy mentioned before and Chris mentioned before, we're going to be able to immediately see the payment come through and have it updated on the system. And the customer as well would have a portal for themselves that they could see what they have outstanding in terms of payments with Carl. Yeah, so thanks a lot for the opportunity again, and any questions I'm happy to answer. Thanks,
Perfect.
Bart.
Yes, thank you, Marklan. Thank you. Yeah, so let's indeed wait for the integration. Very, very informative the way you explained it. Let's go to the audience again, and we have two more poll questions, and then we will raise the questions from the audience. So the first question is, what is the biggest obstacle to implement a new payment solution? Is it resources, knowledge, budget restrictions? The biggest obstacle to implement a payment solution, if you do not have one yet, resources, knowledge, or budget restrictions. So let's wait again a little less than a minute, half a minute still to go. At the moment, we only have one answer from multiple people. Now we have two answers. So we will show you the results now. And it is knowledge or budget. Let's go into this in a minute. We will launch the second one, and then we will go back to these answers, knowledge and budget. Do you use an online payment solution today? This is the question, so it's yes or no. Do you use an online payment solution? Yes or no? Still half a minute to go. This is also a bit for us to have an indication. Oh, that's interesting. So 60% have answered, and the answer is no for 80%, which is an interesting answer. So Christopher, Dan, and Marklan, let's have some questions also. But first, Christopher, what is your take on the previous poll question on the budget and knowledge?
Can I start with a question you're going here? I remember I went to Sweden. If anybody goes to Stockholm, I went there about 4 years ago. And if you try and buy a bun in a baker, they have a little sign saying online payments only. You simply can't buy in a baker with cash. They don't do it. It's an expectation. So I think in terms of online payment solutions today, you need to offer them. People will adopt them. In terms of the other chart, if you can bring up the answers to that one, Bart-Jan, one of the main, the poll answers, one of the main things that I thought, what's the biggest obstacle for many things? Of course, it's technology, or the solution is available, it takes too long, or it costs too much. Well, none of those apply. It doesn't cost anything to enable or to operate the PayCargo interface. You don't pay champ anything. In terms of resources, that's not a problem. Well, that's probably true because we're a cloud provider, so we do the whole work. Dan, you simply ask Dan to do it, he makes it happen. In terms of knowledge, hopefully this webinar helps, but in terms of budget restrictions, that isn't a problem, shouldn't be for anybody. Those are my quick comments, Bart-Jan, but I'm sure others might want to add to that.
Yeah, let's ask a few questions indeed. So, Marklan, if you could also join us with the camera, and Christopher. So, Marklan, we asked a question about non-IATA, and
Yes.
you mentioned that your airline is very much consignee driven. So I'm sure you would have answered D, which is over 20%.
Yeah.
But that percentage may be much higher. So what is it? How much consignee driven? What does that mean?
So firstly, it's about 90% in terms of the non-IATA business that we do. So by consignee driven, I mean somebody from in Trinidad is actually making the decision in terms of which carrier they should use and the products that they require to be imported into the region. So the Caribbean is one of those regions that's very high on import and not so much on export. So export is still being developed, but it's really more import driven. So the consignee is the person that's actually calling the shots there. And because in the region as well, some businesses may have a challenge with Forex. It's not a desire to have to pay the shipper, for instance, for the shipping part of the business or the transaction.
Yeah.
So they prefer to pay the carrier directly. There isn't a CAS in the Caribbean, so it would mean that we have to take on these payments from all of these customers directly. And this has been a challenge for carriers in the region in terms of being able to collect payments in a timely manner without leakage. So technology like this and initiatives like this definitely helps in terms of addressing those gaps for us.
Yeah, and consignee driven means charges freight collect, so it's all
Correct.
paid also at your end. So that is indeed also
Correct.
a big part of the money flow.
Yeah.
So Timothy, I have a question for you. What is, in your view, what are the biggest challenges that airlines or ground handlers are facing at the moment?
Yeah, I apologize, I was muted there. Yeah, I think it was on the poll question you showed is knowledge. So this is our job to make more customers aware of how simple the solution is. Obviously, if they're already using Cargo Spot, it's simply making that customer, whether it's an airline like Marklan or a GSA or ground handling, available to PayCargo tools in addition to working with Champ. And that's really how do we get the message out to more customers, how easy it is.
Yeah, indeed. We've seen now how easy it is. It's a switch of a button, and also the example that Marklan gives. So as the benefits are so obvious for airlines, ground handlers, and forwarders, what is holding them back then, Timothy? You think you mentioned knowledge. Is that it?
I would say knowledge, but also, for example, if I'm using a legacy product on some of the export payments, perhaps fear, to be quite honest, to use another solution. The PayCargo business model, since we do not charge the airline or the GSA or the ground handling agent to receive payments, is simply PayCargo is another option. So most of the major airlines we work with, and obviously ground handlers in North America, have multiple forms of payments, but the relationship seems to grow. Again, if it is enabled by the Cargo Spot integration, it grows faster because they get very good data, and it applies automatically into their Cash App system. So it's how do we reach out to more customers, all of us on this call, and make them aware of it and solve some of the problems.
Yes, indeed. Let's address a few questions. Yeah.
Bart-Jan, can I just interject in there, just add something? Timothy has thousands of freight forwarders using PayCargo. So if any airline were to say, do you have existing users? Have you say to any of their clients, are you using PayCargo? The answer would be yes, but not with you. So
yes.
The user adoption is out, the user requirement is out there. User familiarity is out there.
Yeah, indeed. Let me address a few questions from the audience. Timothy, does PayCargo offer analytics or reporting? Is one of the questions.
Yeah, very good question. Yes, we do. We provide very good data to both parties. The receiver, let's say the airline, such as Caribbean, we provide them with daily report that shows all the payments that were remitted and the customer, the airway bill, and so forth, very precise information. We also provide the same information in real time to the payers. So a Kunanagal, a DHL, a trucker, whoever's using our platform to create a payable to the airline or the GSA or the ground handler, they also get very precise information, and we've customized some work process flows for both parties, which means if they want more precise data, they want better reporting tools, by all means, we can provide that to them.
Yeah, we have 2 more minutes to go, and all the questions are for you, Timothy. How does PayCargo handle disputes or issues related to payments or transactions? The button was shown, the disputes, I remember, but so how does PayCargo handle disputes?
Sure, another very good question, Bart-Jan. The business rules are defined by the airline or the ground handler or the GSA. So the receiver decides how they would like to handle refunds, disputes, short pays, overpayments, all those kind of issues, types of charges, line item billing, all that's decided by the airline. Once that's decided by the receiver, by the airline, let's say, we do have a button in PayCargo that allows the payer the ability to say, I'm disputing these charges, I overpaid, I need a refund. And then again, according to the written business rules that are agreed upon with the airline or the GSA or the ground handling agent, we then implement them, which means we do automated refunds for a number of airlines already. It provides a better process for them instead of having to wire back funds to the customer for an overpayment or chase that same customer, to be very frank, for an underpayment.
Yeah. Last question. Does PayCargo provide support for international payments and currencies?
Another very good question. You have all very good questions today, Bart-Jan. We do. We have payments in euros, US dollars, and Canadian dollars currently. We're going live in Dubai in June of this year, and then Hong Kong in the following month, in Australia with Australian dollars in July. So the goal of PayCargo is to be multiple regions, multiple currencies by the end of 2023.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there are other questions, but they're too specific. Somebody is asking if PayCargo can be used for their ERP system, but I will provide you that lead later on, and then you can go back to them. So let's move on and very quickly do a short summary. So we started with Christopher explaining the deep integration, and it's free to use. It's easy to deploy for cargo spot users, the interface. Then a very clear explanation, no manual data entry, very important part of it. An interface for area bill payments, the freight charges. Then Timothy PayCargo explained about the benefits for vendors and for payers. PayCargo at work, and also $20 billion which is going through the system at the moment. And then Marklan for Caribbean Airlines explained the ease and convenience was the key word there. The benefits from an airline perspective. And Marklan mentioned we can't wait for the integration as it makes life a whole lot easier. That's the perfect quote. Let's end with this. Thank you, Marklan, Christopher, Dan, Timothy, for the excellent presentation from your part. Thank you, audience, for joining us. Hopefully you will join us next time. See you next time, maybe in Munich at Transport Logistics, Air Cargo Europe, or any of the other live events. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.